Guys, it's bad. Like, it's bad. I think that if Daredevil Born Again came out and the original didn't exist, it would probably have the same notoriety as, like, the Hawkeye show. Like, people would not care that much unless they were already into the character. But this show, it hurts just how bad it is. And I'm not just gonna say that the show fails without Foggy and Karen, though everyone knows that it does. It fails because it can't do anything nearly as good as those characters. So the question becomes, why did you kill them off? The people who made this show wanted to do their own thing, make their own story, but they also knew that people wanted Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio back as Daredevil and Fisk, and I guess Bullseye and Punisher. So they brought them without truly honoring the lore of the previous show, and that, my friends, is disgustingly cruel. The 3 seasons of Daredevil clear about 95% of MCU history, hell, Marvel movie history, and these people have plucked the characters and actors they wanted while discarding the rest, and then they made a worse show on top of that. And let's be clear, the show was kinda bad. It's not unwatchable, but literally every part of it is either a downgrade from the earlier show or just plain not good at all. For the main characters, it's simple. Matthew is boring and simply not punished enough for being Daredevil, and he's also barely Daredevil in this season. If you want the conflict to be about him choosing to be Daredevil, then you should punish him for choosing it. Right now, you're only punishing his lawyer escapades and when he's not wearing the mask. Season 3 of the OG show kinda had a similar plot between him and Kingpin, which is already kinda copycat BS, but Matt was going through it in Season 3, and the tension that was built up to that finale was probably the best in MCU history. And now, we got that at home, I guess. This is your reminder to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. In this season, Daredevil and Fisk just talk at first, and from there the tension is supposed to build. I say supposed to because it doesn't really until the last 2 episodes. That's the only times these two interact. I think the idea is that we're supposed to care about both of their stories simultaneously, even though they're not directly interacting, a la The Last of Us 2. But like, nah, that just doesn't work when Matt doesn't even suit up until over halfway through the season. It kinda leaves you wondering what they were even doing the entire season, which brings me to Fisk. Somehow, some way, they managed to make Kingpin more entertaining than Daredevil, the guy the show is named after. From the way he's trying to pretend he's improved, his new crew of lackeys, and even how he treats his best friend Adam. I think what makes Fisk largely more compelling is, one, he has better side characters. Buck is like, fine. Like, criticize what you want about this show, but you leave my boy British Wesley alone. And he's also got a cool mayoral campaign plotline in general, where he's consolidating control and trying to get rid of vigilantes. The only other characters involved in this are Vanessa and some weird kid that's really annoying, as well as Gallo and Campaign Lady. I bring up Kingpin's new right hand because him and BB, the niece of Ben Urich from the original show, are kind of their own little plot line that doesn't end up mattering that much at all. It strikes me as something that'll come up next season, but Daniel isn't one of those characters who feels conflicted about what Fisk is doing. He's just a blind believer who I imagine will probably be killed off in the following seasons. And BB, I don't actually know what she's doing in the show other than her documentary style stuff being peppered in every once in a while to try and give New York that grittier vibe. Doesn't work for me, but maybe someone else likes it. I think BB Urich's story actually had a lot of potential with her personal stake in everything with Kingpin, but again, it's something they're just setting up for right now, so it hasn't gone anywhere yet. Kingpin's side of the show is marginally more entertaining, but still not great, and I think his therapy sessions with Vanessa are kind of a highlight. Like, this dude is evil, and he's killed countless named characters, but I still don't want his marriage to fail in a weird way. And also, some of the clips this show gave us of Fisk are goddamn hilarious.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Mind if I cut in?
Just wonderful.
Now for our next one.
No, that's fine.
Now, obviously the show fails the characters on Daredevil's side, no question, but how? Well, somehow the first episode of this show is probably like the second best. It's really not that bad. Like, killing off Foggy was bold and ditching Karen even bolder, but hey, let's see what we get in their place. Let's be objective. You got Detective Ireland, Cherry, Lawyer Lady, and best of all, my favorite entry, Matt's new love interest, the therapist. Notice I didn't use actual human names because I literally can't remember them. But they also axed Bullseye for most of the show, so what about a main physical threat, someone for Daredevil to fight all the time? We got Muse. Yeah. These are the 5 worst characters I've ever seen. Cherry is supposed to be the Daredevil's version of Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad, which is amusing because you do not want people comparing your show to Breaking Bad. He's like a retired cop/PI that does Matt's bidding, but also whines when Matt returns as Daredevil, which is funny because why, Cherry? Like, Matt has successfully balanced being Daredevil and Matthew Murdock at once. He's not just a copy of Spider-Man. If anything, it's more alarming if Matt quits the mask. But that's Cherry's role in the plot and all he does for the whole show, so we'll give him a pass just this once. What about the cop, Lady Ireland? Well, if she didn't disappear for 4 episodes, I might remember her name. It's just funny to me that both her and Cherry were present for the Bullseye massacre and got out unharmed. But anyway, again, she does nothing except handle some hostage situation and deal with Fisk like one time. I think I like Chief Gallo more than her, and he barely even counts as a side character. But hey, we'll give her a pass just this once, she's barely even in the show. Okay, no more free passes. What about Muse? Well, Muse is not only stripped of his powers, but he's only really in like 2 episodes where he has a direct impact. And honestly, he never compares to the menace that is Bullseye anyway. But hey, we'll just give him one more pass because he was stripped of his powers. It wouldn't be fair to criticize him. And of course, Matt's new love interest compared to Karen, what a joke. This chick is not only an active supporter of Fisk, not only puts Daredevil and Muse in the same category, not only is kind of a terrible therapist when it comes down to it, but it doesn't even feel like Matt likes her that much. Surely not more than Karen, at least. But hey, she doesn't know he's Daredevil, so she gets a pass. You see, the problem with giving all these characters passes is 1, obviously there's no side characters left, and 2, you made it this way! You chose to do this! You got rid of 2 historically good side characters that you could have put in this sad lineup, and you failed! And yeah, now I'm mad. Maybe it's on me for expecting something similar to the previous show, because there's a reason it is its own show. But still, this stuff is just kinda bad. It leaves me wondering at the end of the season what even happened. There were no fight scenes as good as before, there were no conversations as good as the original show. I know some people liked Matt and Frank's 5-minute dialogue, but then Frank just leaves the show. I never got over how abrupt and rushed that dialogue was. Which brings me to the final and largest issue of the entire show, the feel. And I think you probably know what I'm talking about. New York feels a lot brighter, a lot faker, more gentrified. I hate to be the guy that calls New York in the old show its own character, but it definitely was. And now we've lost that. I mean, just look at Matt's new apartment compared to his old one. All the aura was drained from it. And then every single scene of dialogue or even fight scenes feels so rushed, except the therapy sessions, I guess. The characters aren't allowed to sit and exist in these scenes. Every single one just serves the purpose of setting up a different scene. This show is about as brutal and grim as the old one, more or less, but the violence doesn't mean anything without the context that makes it important. When I watched Ray Nadeem get shot in the head in the 3rd season of the OG show, that meant something. Hector Ayala was just some guy, to be honest. It's sad, but not as impactful as it could have been. And I already said this, but Muse sucks compared to Bullseye. Muse didn't do anything of value. They chickened out of giving him powers, and then he just dies. Bullseye is my favorite villain in the whole MCU, so to see him wasted for the whole season, for the most part, sucks. I'm glad he came back at the end, but still. And don't get me wrong, I don't feel good hating this show. I wanted to like it. I kinda even tricked myself into liking it for the first couple episodes. But wow, this show, even when not compared to the original, is not working as it is. Sure, maybe the suit looks a little better, and there's a bunch of other colors of it for some reason. Although, Melvin is another character who probably should have come back. Even the music took a noticeable dip from the OG show, although I will say, the new intro's alright. Like, it's not as good as the old one, obviously. The old one is like top 10 intros of all time, if you ask me. But the new one's alright. Like, the music has the same vibe as the old show. I kinda like it. It's not as good, but it's alright. This show just kinda feels like the pinnacle of greed from the MCU, because, like, you just mangled all the storylines of these characters from the previous show so you could force the same actors into your new show, and that is greedy as all hell. If you killed Foggy off at the end of the season, or ditched Karen at the end of the season, it wouldn't be as bad, because then you at least gave us time to say goodbye to those characters. And I'm not getting on the show about ditching these characters in general, I'm saying you did that and you replaced them with such downgrades that it's a joke. Downgrades. Huge. The characters are worse, the fights are worse, New York feels worse, the brutality everyone was begging for lacks any meaning, and scenes aren't allowed to sit and breathe because they have to set up other scenes. And I can't say that enough, by the way, about the fight scenes. Basically all of them are trashy and edited into oblivion. If I could actually see what was going on in the opening of the show, I might have liked it more. I think the only decently good fight scene is the one with Muse in the train area thingy. And credit where it's due, the cinematography of the show is actually, like, pretty good. Don't make any mistake, the editing and aesthetic is still quite poor all around, but the actual cinematography and camera work is pretty informed and creative. And potential spoilers here, I guess, but we gotta address the elephant in the room. The death of Foggy Figglebottom Nelson. The show obviously hinted towards Foggy coming back like the fake-out death in the comics. So with him potentially coming back, and Karen returning, and Fisk, and Bullseye, and Punisher, and Matt himself, what was even the point? Foggy's death is sad, but we also haven't seen him in like 7 years, so if you didn't watch the original show recently, you'll probably feel way more shocked than genuinely sad. Actually, the trailers kind of spoiled his death, so f*** you, I guess you're not shocked or sad. And the final nail in the coffin of all this is the finale of the show. There's 3 different problems with the finale. First, when Karen shows up after the whole season has gone by and Frank's here helping Matthew, it's really insulting to me, because it plays these big, triumphant musical cues and you can tell it's supposed to be important, but it plays like we're supposed to be grateful that the show so deigns to bring back these characters. Like, you guys are clearly struggling without these 2 critical characters and Foggy, and you dare to act like we're the ones benefiting from these characters coming back. Are you out of your mind? Listen close, guys, I know the general public likes to forget, but that's not how it works. You and I paid money to watch the show. We're not the ones benefiting from it being good. The studio is. Because if the show's bad, people aren't going to keep paying for it. So you can dress it up all you want, but it's not some kind of reward for us to be graced with Karen and Frank during the finale. It feels more like the studio just calling it quits and saying, fine, we give up on telling a new story. You wasted all this money on time skips and things like that, and the show is still cheeks. Also, this barely has anything to do with this, but I read a tweet like 2 years ago that I never forgot, saying that the show should open with Matt hearing half the universe turning to dust. That would have been awesome. In fact, I think a much more interesting story would be Foggy and Karen disappearing for a few years in the blip, but all of Matt's enemies are still around. It would have had the unlucky Daredevil-ness from the comics and would have been comically cruel. I'm not a writer, but I don't know, that would have been cosmically humorous, and we would have had the reassurance that those characters are coming back even if Matt doesn't. So you would still create genuine emotion in any scenes where he's missing Foggy or Karen or anything like that. But back to the problems in the finale, there's just the drastic tone shift in general. This season may be slightly brutal, but Gallo's death was some horror movie shit. Like, I don't think we've seen anything from the previous show or the last few episodes that justifies having him randomly die so viciously. But that's kind of a nitpick and not a huge problem. The only other problem with the finale that I have is the idea that the final fight scene for the entire season is just Punisher. The finale feels the most mismatched with everything else, and it's where the stitch lines of the reshoots and the original plan for the show are shown the most. Like, Frank doesn't even have his beard now, come on guys. I think it highlights the glaring problem of not having Matt really even be Daredevil, like, at all this season. And it hurts all the more when the show expects you to be grateful for all this. Like, you took a great show and mangled it into a mess. You had to overhaul the new product because it was so bad, and then cut it up with the old version. You got rid of most of the old characters. The new characters pretty much all blow chunks, extra emphasis on the new love interest. And to ask me to act grateful, sorry, you're asking a little bit too much. You might think this show's fine if you never watched the original, I'll give you that. But I am telling you, watching the original shows you how disgusting this one is, because the people who worked on the old show knew what they were doing and were competent. And Marvel went out of their way to mess it all up to clunk out a quicker, messier, more problematic show, firing all the people who made the first one absolute magic. The original show introduced me to Daredevil and has made me a lifelong fan. This is terrible. Maybe it'll get better next season, but for now, 4 out of 10. I wanted to love you. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, especially if you like movies, TV, superheroes, video games, and all that stuff. I feel like you like at least one of those things and you've subbed to channels worse than this one, so you should definitely subscribe. Okay, play nice people.